Welcome to session 9 of the 21st Annual Northwest Interlibrary Loan and Resource Sharing Conference. NWIL's land acknowledgement is read at our opening and closing session. To view NWIL's land acknowledgement statement, please visit our website, nwil.org, under the Land Acknowledgement tab. Today's date is September 16th, 2022. This session is titled More Than Just Print, Expanding Consortial Resource Sharing, and will be presented by Maggie Mason-Smith, Access Services Librarian at PASCAL, Rena Red, an Interlibrary Loan Librarian at Clemson University, Diane Schaffer, Shared Library Services Platform Coordinator at PASCAL. My name is Sophia Daman, and I'm the convener for this session. This session is being recorded with permission from the presenters, and access to the slides is available in Whova. Because the presenters retain the copyright to the information they are presenting, they may choose to request its removal from public viewing in the future by written request to the NWIL committee chairperson. However, at this time, it is planned that recordings will be made available once captions have been added. Attendees will be notified when the recordings are available. To turn live captioning on, click the CC link at the bottom of the screen and select Show Subtitle. If you have a question during the session, please use the Q&A function in Whova, and I will pose these to the presenters at the end of their presentations. When the presentation ends, please complete the post-session survey in Whova located on the conference homepage. NWIL and presenters appreciate and use your feedback. On that note, I will turn the session over to our presenters.
Thank you, Sophia, for the introduction. Thank you for joining us today to learn about our journey of more than just print, expanding consortial resource sharing. Next slide. As with any consortial program, a collaboration between the libraries and the consortium is beneficial, and this presentation is no exception. I'm grateful to be joined by my PASCAL colleague, Maggie Mason-Smith, and Rena Red from Clemson University, one of the member institutions. Next slide. We will start by providing a little background on what PASCAL is and the long-standing PASCAL Delivers resource sharing program, and then discuss the creation and work of the Non-Returnables Task Force and how member libraries have considered and responded to the challenges and opportunities with consortial resource sharing. Next slide. And the next slide. PASCAL is an academic library consortium in South Carolina. It is governed by a board comprised of 11 library directors representing the various member constituencies. There are a number of permanent, topically focused teams, as well as temporary task forces created related to specific projects. PASCAL is a division of the state's Commission on Higher Education and is supported by member fees as well as state funding. Next slide. PASCAL is focused on, as our mission states, providing timely and universal access to information resources and library services. And consortial resource sharing has been a long-standing program. Next slide, please. PASCAL has 57 member libraries spread throughout the state, supporting a combined approximately 229,000 students. Member libraries represent a range of types of institutions, including technical, comprehensive, research, and special public institutions, along with private institutions. This variation also extends to the size of the libraries with respect to the number of employees, financial resources, and subsequently services. Next slide. The four main program areas of PASCAL are content licensing with both core and opt-in electronic resources, including a shared DDA program, the support of a shared ALMA and Primo VE system for 55 of the member libraries, along with Open Athens for 44 members. The level of support varies based on the needs of the library and ranges from collaborative to full support, in which PASCAL staff are their systems librarian. A growing affordable learning program to provide support to faculty and librarians promoting the use of low and no cost resources, PASCAL was recently selected to participate in the 2022-2023 Institute on Open Educational Resources with the Association of American Colleges and Universities to expand initiatives. And the Print Rapid Delivery Program for Consortial Resource Sharing has been a core program of PASCAL known as PASCAL Delivers. Next slide, please. As one of the largest member institutions, Clemson University is the land-grant institution for the state of South Carolina and was established in 1889. As a land-grant university, it holds many campuses and properties throughout the state of South Carolina that occupy the traditional and ancestral land of the many people indigenous to the Americas, including those groups known: Cherokee, Catawba, Edisto, Santee, Waccamaw, and Yamasee, and those groups unknown. Clemson's main campus was built on the plantation known as Fort Hill, and people enslaved by the Pickens, Clemson, and Calhoun families, among many other families, lived and worked on these lands. The plantation was transformed into the campus of Clemson College, now university, through convict labor. Clemson's academic focus is on engineering, health sciences, and agriculture, and has 27,000 undergraduate and graduate students. Clemson Libraries has 5 facilities located in the Clemson area and 2 others, one in Charleston and one opening soon in Greenville, South Carolina. The library owns over 800,000 books, over 1 million ebooks, and subscribes to more than 700 databases. Next slide, please. As mentioned, the PASCAL Delivers program has been a core component of PASCAL. Through a resource sharing agreement amongst the member libraries, students, faculty, and staff of all libraries have access to more than 12 million physical items located throughout the state. In June 2020, PASCAL completed a migration to a shared Alma and Primo VE platform from a number of different library systems that previously relied on an InReach overlay to manage consortial resource sharing. Now the integrated automated fulfillment network in Alma manages the discovery, requesting, transiting, and loaning of materials between the libraries. Users are able to request delivery to any of the libraries, not just their home institution, and return materials to any library, with the latter being helpful in the early stages of COVID closures to facilitate the return of materials. Over the past year plus, most libraries have been able to resume offering visiting patron opportunities to enable users to browse the shelves of other libraries and borrow directly. PASCAL does contract with a regional courier to physically transit the materials between libraries. Next slide, please. As successful and popular as PASCAL Delivers program has been, it faces increasing challenges. These include format limitations, as since its inception, the service has focused on sharing physical materials, which in most cases translates to print resources. A few institutions do lend physical media in addition to print, but those institutions are in the minority. Additionally, the print materials shared are generally only those items held in the main stacks collections, rather than specialized collections such as a South Carolina room. As experienced in many other libraries, the number of physical transactions are declining, and while COVID restrictions enhance this trend, when combined with courier delivery issues, the service is becoming more expensive per transaction. Unfortunately, over the past few years, we have been experiencing an increasing number of missed delivery stops that translates into materials taking longer to reach the requesting patron for their time-sensitive use, and also slower in being returned to their home institution that further delays access to the materials for other patrons. Additionally, the lack of a direct connection between the PASCAL Deliver service and institutional library loan systems has, while fully integrated to the Alma system, the lack of the connection meant that requests that could not be filled for whatever reason with Alma were being canceled, prompting Alma to send a cancellation notification to the requesting patron. While a new request could be placed directly on the ILL system, that requires further work from the patron, which may or may not occur, and or mediation from library employees. Next slide, please. As the challenges grew, some changes also appeared to provide some opportunities to consider. The shift in resource acquisition from print to electronic that COVID enhanced means that fewer materials are available in print to share. But there are more electronic resources that are currently not eligible to be shared. And by late 2021, with more than a year of experience with the shared ALMA and Primo VE system having elapsed, PASCAL could look beyond simply replicating what was done with the previous InReach system to new functionality. PASCAL uses the embedded automated fulfillment network functionality with some configurations at the local institutional level and others at the network level that apply to all institutions. And finally, PASCAL was able to add an access services librarian, Maggie Mason-Smith, to its staff who would be dedicated to supporting the PASCAL Delivers service rather than it being one of many responsibilities for other staff. So with that, I will turn this over to Maggie to discuss how we looked to these opportunities.
Thanks, Diane. I'm Maggie Mason-Smith, and I am the Access Services Librarian for PASCAL. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we address the challenges and the changes that we were seeing with our PASCAL Delivers service. And I'm actually going to turn my camera off while speaking to help attendees focus on the information being provided. Next slide, please, Rona. So the first thing that we really did with this project was to carve out some time to discuss what we were seeing and brainstorm potential ideas to address the challenges and the changes that were arising. PASCAL as a consortium has long talked about the possibility of a non-returnable service. So we started there as a potential way to alleviate some of the issues. The questions on this slide and the next slide are just a snapshot of the questions that we asked of each other while brainstorming. So we were asking each other, would adding a digitization request service create new opportunities for access to resources without excessively burdening our already overworked members? Could an existing system, namely our AFN setup on ALMA Primo VE, allow for digital requesting in addition to our already set up print requesting service? Or would additional systems be required for this work? Next slide, please. And we asked each other, how can PASCAL staff sustainably support members using this new service? And how would this new service align with PASCAL's vision, values, and strategic goals? And ultimately, we found that this potential new service fits very well within PASCAL's overarching work, which is to support higher education and the growth of South Carolina's knowledge-based economy by providing equitable access to high-quality academic resources. To avoid further burdening our members while still increasing access for patrons, we decided that any offered digitization service should be optional, that individual institutions should be able to determine whether they borrow and lend or just borrow. After quite a bit of investigation, we did find that we could use our existing ALMA Primo VE AFN setup to allow for digitization of articles and chapters held in a print format. But we decided to first work with members to configure a lender of last resort. And that is to create a connection between institutional ALMA environments and institutional interlibrary loan platforms. This would move requests that cannot be filled within the consortium to an interlibrary loan platform rather than prompting a cancellation notification and subsequently requiring extra steps for patrons and/or library employees. With the addition of an access services librarian, me, working closely with our shared library services platform coordinator, Diane, to support this service, we felt that we could maintain this long term. So with all of this in mind, we did find that this approach meets many of PASCAL's stated values, the equitable access to information resources and library services, transparency, open communication, and collaborative decision-making, responsible stewardship of resources, efficiency and cost savings through collective action, and innovation and creative use of technology to enhance library services. And finally, this fits within our strategic goals, mainly strategic goal number 1, which is to enhance, preserve, and provide universal access to print and electronic information resources to member libraries. So you can see on this slide, the task force charge. Our board of directors did stand up a task force to work toward the creation of this new service. And here you can see key parts of the task force charge to assess the state of interlibrary loan and document delivery programs, and to propose strategies for expanding end user access to material, to review the potential of both short-term and long-range solutions, and to prioritize its evaluation of this tool's capacity to serve as a central infrastructure supporting the delivery of non-returnables across the consortium. Next slide, please. And here you can see the task force's actual deliverables, which were to review the current capability for delivery of non-returnables, evaluate the viability of AFN, identify other viable platforms and investigate their potential role, analyze potential local implications, present recommendations, and provide ongoing updates. Next slide, please. The members of our task force were chosen from across the consortium with expertise and diversity in mind. Their daily responsibilities, current PASCAL committee or working group participation, institution size and support tier, and institutional interlibrary loan platform or lack thereof were considered at the time of task force formation. The left side of this slide lists the institutions that were represented on the task force, and the right side of this slide lists the PASCAL staff members officially liaising with the task force. But every staff member at PASCAL has already worked with the task force in some way. Next slide, please. So as we began our work, the task force determined 3 main areas should be considered to effectively meet the charge. These are digital article and chapter lending, whole ebook lending, and controlled digital lending. To efficiently and successfully achieve those goals, the task force divided into 3 subcommittees to focus on each of these areas. And a breakdown of which institution is represented on which subcommittee can be seen here. So you can see we kind of broke out pretty evenly. And again, when we were thinking about these subcommittees, we thought about not only what services or lack of services these institutions were providing, but what you're actually interested in. We wanted our members to be really invested in the work that we were doing, and it always helps when you actually like the work that you are, putting in every day. Next slide, please. So the next couple of slides were created for our members at general membership meetings to demonstrate the way that this new aspect of the PASCAL Deliver service will integrate into the existing print delivery service. This diagram illustrates the layered relationship between member library services, PASCAL delivers services, and external interlibrary loan services. As shown, PASCAL delivers expands access beyond member libraries, with the next expansion being broader sharing outside of the consortium. Including information on broader interlibrary loan services was especially important for us because the lender of last resort configuration and subsequently new connection between PASCAL delivers and ILL is changing the way that we think about these services consortially. Next slide, please. We wanted to emphasize to our members the fact that non-returnables will become part of the existing PASCAL Deliver service rather than being a completely new and separate service on its own. So we've begun to use the name PASCAL Delivers as more of an overarching term to encompass both PASCAL Delivers Print, which is the original iteration of the service, and you can see here that's the statewide rapid print delivery service with pickup, return anywhere, and visiting patron service aspects. And PASCAL Delivers Digital, which is the new addition to the service when working with members and each other. So the list on the right side of the screen for PASCAL Delivers Digital is essentially what I talked about before, those 3 subcommittees. There is 2 article and chapter lending bullet points there because we needed to break down article and chapter lending from print resources and article and chapter lending from digital resources into 2 phases of a different project. Next slide, please. So when the task force got to work, one of the first things that we did was compile a list of short-term solutions for members which are small-scale opportunities to improve end-user access and/or smooth out workflows for library employees. You can see the 6 short-term solutions provided to members here. Gauging interest in and need for consortial support for resource sharing outside of PASCAL delivers. Using the PASCAL website to provide interlibrary loan information for members. Updating the language in Alma's full cancel email letter. Assisting with the optimal use of current interlibrary loan platforms. Evaluating interest in supplemental opt-in document delivery services. And enabling digital requested journal articles and book chapters housed in print format. We are working currently at various levels of progress with each of these, but we are emphasizing the fact that not every opportunity provided will be appropriate for every library, and members are able to make the best choice for their processes, procedures, and patrons with help from PASCAL staff. Next slide, please. So I've mentioned a couple of times our lender of last resort configurations. The 2 short-term solutions that are our current main focus are lender of last resort and digital requesting from print items. This slide gives you information on the lender of last resort project. So our members are using a range of interlibrary loan platforms, including WorldShare, Tapasa, Iliad, and Clio. At the start of this project, no institution had a fully configured lender of last resort. So PASCAL staff have been working closely with each institution to configure this connection between Alma Primo VE and an ILL platform. So this means that if a patron places a request in Primo VE and that request cannot be filled within PASCAL, Alma will automatically transfer the request metadata to the newly linked ILL platform. This also moves the bulk of processing from the ILL platform into Alma, which allows library employees to see all patron loans in one place and allows patrons to see their loans and request a renewal in Primo. As you can see, 21 members are currently live with this service. 1 member is in a final testing phase. This actually changed this morning. We have 2 more members that are in a testing phase now. 4 members are in a configuration phase, and we're working specifically with our members who do not have an ILL platform to turn on the item availability calculation tool in Alma Primo VE in an attempt to cut back on patron and library employee frustration over canceled requests. Next slide, please. And here, the second short-term solution the task force is working on is enabling digital requests from articles and chapters housed in print format. So this service is leveraging the Alma Primo configuration options to allow PASCAL delivers patrons to request digital copies of articles and chapters housed in a print format. This allows us to open collections that aren't normally circulating via PASCAL delivers print. So for example, we currently have some members who have opened up reference or reserves or even special collections such as their South Carolina room. We initially piloted this service with 12 institutions, and that pilot project wrapped up a few weeks ago. Those 12 institutions have moved into a soft launch phase, and we are now systematically configuring new members for the service as well. We are configuring members who have already a lender of last resort configuration, so that's kind of the first step before they move here, because we want to be able to capture the requests that are being auto-canceled by Alma Primo. So instead of being auto-canceled, if a patron requests a digital article or chapter, it will also fall through to their lender of last resort ROTA. Again, on the slide, you can see that 19 of our members are currently participating in the soft launch. All 19 are borrowing. 12 are borrowing and lending, and 7 are taking this opportunity to offer a local digitization service for their own patrons. This is an entirely new service for many of our members, as well as general consortial digitization, so we're very excited about that. Requesting digitized copies of articles and chapters held in a digital format is the next planned phase of this project. We needed to separate this out based on the configurations within Alma. We could go ahead and configure the print side of this by building off the back of the AFN network that we already used for print requesting, but requesting digital from digital format is a separate configuration that we'll need to start building from scratch. Next slide, please. And I'm going to wrap up my section here with a very quick look at the other two aspects of task force work, which are whole ebook lending and controlled digital lending. The whole ebook lending subcommittee is currently focused on supporting members in lending outside of the PASCAL consortium. That seems a little counterintuitive, but our members kind of already, so by doing this, let me pause. Let me let my mouth keep up. By doing this, we are working with members who already know what their ILL licenses state, what the licenses they subscribe to have for ILL, I should say. So it's easier for them to focus more on the deliverability part of this rather than the actual discoverability aspect of it. So we've started doing this outside of the consortium first. This service leverages ILL-focused language in license agreements, as I said, as well as ALMA workflows to allow members to borrow and lend whole ebooks. Phase 2 of the project will focus on supporting members in lending within the PASCAL consortium, because to do that, we need to consider discoverability, requestability, and delivery. Next slide, please. And the Controlled Digital Lending Subcommittee is currently focused on actively learning and gathering information, both on controlled digital lending itself, as well as platforms and programs that are currently in place or being developed for this method of lending. That's it for me. So now I'm going to turn this over to Rena to discuss consortial member responses to task force work.
Thank you, Maggie. And I just want to say on behalf of everybody in the task force and everybody in PASCAL, thank you to the two of you for doing so much of the heavy lifting and helping everybody get up to speed and create this new service. I think it's really going to be a game changer for all of our students. So my name is Rena Red. I'm the interlibrary loan librarian at Clemson University. And first I want to talk about member communication and training. So PASCAL staff have worked very hard to communicate these initiatives and upcoming changes to the consortium. They've always used methods like newsletters, the website, and periodic membership meetings to share news about projects. However, within the past few years, PASCAL has transitioned from using listservs to using Basecamp to allow for broad discussion while also creating space for different communities of practice, working groups, and committees. Staff also use a support ticket system through which members can report issues with Primo, Alma, any of our other services, and with our courier. And they are extremely responsive to these tickets, and also will put in tickets on our behalf with Ex Libris. PASCAL also focuses on member training to help library staff around the state learn new workflows and best practices. Each new workflow is introduced with step-by-step instructions that include screenshots and a lot of detail. This makes bringing these workflows back to my colleagues that much easier because PASCAL has created the documentation and then vetted it with various working groups. They're also willing to jump on Zoom and have one-on-one sessions to look at configurations and go over any processes that people have questions about. Similarly, they make themselves available for library-wide sessions and hold multiple webinars for the entire consortium throughout the year. As Diane mentioned earlier, the member libraries in PASCAL make up a wide range of academic libraries. By participating in the task force and engaging in the initiative, some community and technical colleges wondered if they were working to solve a problem that doesn't really exist for them or their patrons. Is their staffing prepared to handle a projected rise in PASCAL requests? Was everything status quo and fine the way it was? Our colleague Sam Linthicum at Tri-County Technical College shared that being able to give students there a library experience equal to that of a four-year institution really tapped into their core values of access and was a point of pride. The ability to provide expanded service in an online environment already familiar to students has also been an attractive to this initiative, since all students across the state use Primo VE to search for and access content. And one of the most important aspects of this project that they were drawn to was the idea of using what we had to create services rather than seeking out new products and systems. It's not that there aren't other products that might work better or be easier to use. However, by putting our heads together and really leveraging the functionality of the products we already pay for, we can keep costs down while enhancing access. My colleagues at mid-sized institutions were excited to join work on this project because it was really a way to not only expand access to what their students had, but also share what resources they can with smaller institutions. In particular, implementing the lender of last resort functionality helped them by removing a cancellation notice that might either be ignored, resulting in a patron asking, "Where's my stuff?" or a confused phone call, resulting in a patron asking, "What's going on?" and "Where's my stuff?" It also doesn't burden patrons with having to request the same material twice, first keying in information in Primo VE, and then re-entering the request information into WorldShare or Iliad or Tapasa. One of the biggest things that schools are happy about is being given the choice to opt into participating in whatever program they feel they can handle and at a level they can sustain. For instance, testing workflows by doing digitization locally or opting to be a last chance lender at the very end of the rota. Maggie and Diane are very good about making it clear that this is a judgment-free zone, knowing that different institutions have different capacities for services based on their staffing and what kind of technology they have access to. And like everyone else, participating in this helps make a budget stretch further while making expanded resource sharing more affordable, if not free. And as one of our colleagues at the Citadel said, they're happy, meaning the patrons, so we're happy. So working on this initiative at a large institution, and I will say with the caveat within the context of South Carolina, has been gratifying because it has enabled us to further streamline our workflows and create a requesting process in which the patron requests a book through Primo. If it's not found locally, it can be converted from a hold request to a PASCAL delivers request. Then if it remains unfilled, it will then be automatically sent to our instance of Iliad, where we can leverage our other consortial memberships, like with the Association of Southeastern Research Libraries, to still get the material quickly. The Iliad as lender of last resort functionality also provides a valuable service because ALMA sends an OCLC number, DOI, ISXN, and other bibliographic information when it passes the unfilled request to Iliad, which saves the staff a lot of time. We get many requests for ebooks and do use Occam's Reader, but this initiative will expand what we can borrow and request. Also, with the help of the task force in conjunction with other PASCAL groups that are focused on collection building, we are preparing to address some of our licensing agreements to be better able to lend electronic books. And as you all know, access to more ebooks will help our patrons who are off-site or need texts in a format for accessibility reasons, or prefer the overall functionality like keyword searching that an ebook can provide. Different sized institutions gain different benefits from working together to make access to non-returnables in our consortial resource sharing environment a reality. As a member of the task force, though, I can say that our collective commitment to and vested interest in equity of access is our common bond. And this has been a wonderful opportunity to know more about my colleagues around the state as we work together cooperatively. Learning about the experiences of librarians at institutions that are different from one's own is one of the major benefits of service work in a consortium. We provide each other with different perspectives and ways of seeing matters of access and resource sharing that help us become stronger and more effective for those we serve. And this concludes our presentation. Are there any questions?
Thank you so much, Rena, Diane, and Maggie for this presentation. There are several questions in our Q&A on Whova, and I will start reading them to you. How are consortia, sorry, this is moving. Can you tell us a bit more about how you envision CDL working is one of the questions.
Okay, I'll take this one. CDL for us right now is something that we are trying to support our members in doing, but we're not exactly sure how we're going to support them in the actual like process of doing it, right? So we're very supportive of their right to do it, but we aren't exactly sure how we're going to actually be able to do it. So one of the things that we are looking at for us internally right now is institutional repositories. A lot of our schools want, it may not necessarily be the digitization aspect of it that is the barrier, but it's the storage aspect of it. And institutional repositories make sense for that. And from a consortial viewpoint, when we ask our members to use a specific platform, we want them to be able to use it for multiple purposes. We don't ever want to ask a small institution to spend money for something that they won't really use often. So we're looking at that, but we're also looking at platforms that are already available like Reshare to see if we may be able to participate in that in some way. Once we have a better idea of how we can do it, we will begin to test, create workflows, and then work with our members one-on-one. I do imagine that it will be specific to each institution. We may have some people that want to do this for a complete reference collection or a complete reserves collection, and we may have some members that do this in a very, very limited basis. So really my answer is like, we're not sure yet.
The next question is how are consortia typically formed, external to members or from member institutions? What is the cost to belong, participate in PASCAL?
There's a lot in there. I will say consortia, the sort of infamous version is you've met one consortia, you've only met one consortia because they're all very different. In our case with PASCAL, it is statewide, and that is part of the sort of structure of it. It is that it's higher education institutions within the state, but there are consortia throughout the world that are multi-state, multi-country. Ours is multi-type in the sense of public and private institutions, but there's also multi-type in the sense of higher education institutions, public libraries, K-12 libraries. So it really varies. I guess I'll leave it at it really varies. But I would reach out to other libraries in your local area if you're not part of a consortium to see what might be possible. Some of them are much smaller in terms of what their focus is. Some really only do electronic resource group buying. PASCAL is broader than that, but it also started out very small. So services have grown.
And the next question is also consortia related. What was your biggest hurdle when creating the consortia?
Sophia, I think we lost you there and didn't get the full question.
Okay. What was the biggest hurdle when creating the consortia? Can you hear me now?
Yes. PASCAL has been around for a little over 20 years. I was not here at the original. I'm not sure Rena was either.
Yeah, I don't think any of us were here when it first started, but I'm going to guess, I'm going to take an educated guess and say that it was collaboration between private and public institutions. We are very specific in that money doesn't change hands between institutions for like lost materials, damaged materials, because that's very difficult. And my guess is that it probably was, the collaboration between types of institutions to come together, to work together.
And I do believe there was some organization between some of the public institutions and separately some organization between some of the private institutions, and then those got together in a more organized fashion. And PASCAL delivers, so this resource sharing program was one of the original programs of PASCAL.
The next question is, what is your ratio of print to non-print materials loaned through interlibrary loan?
Brenna, I'm going to give that one to you because it sounds like it's ILL specific rather than PASCAL Deliver specific.
It is, and to be honest, I mean, on a consortial level, I really don't know. And since we've only been doing this for, I mean, we've been live, what, a month? So we don't really have those stats yet. So check with us in like a year and we'll have all the stats and it'll be awesome.
The next question is, how does Pickup Return Anywhere work? Do patrons frequently return books to other libraries that they are patrons of?
Okay, so we have 3 complementary services, which are Pick Up Anywhere, Return Anywhere, and Visiting Patron. Pick Up Anywhere is managed via Alma Primo VE. So patrons, when they place their request, have the opportunity based on coding in the resource sharing request form to choose to pick up at a different consortial institution that's listed in the drop-down list. Our programmer at PASCAL, who's amazing, keeps that list up to date. So for COVID, obviously, a lot of schools could not provide this service, so they were removed and then added back into the list as appropriate. Return Anywhere, yeah, patrons can drop their things anywhere they are. Before I came to PASCAL, I worked at Clemson, and we did have some things that were returned there. Typically, as people here probably know, libraries kind of end up with other libraries' materials, even if they're not in the same consortium. So those items typically sort of filter through to a resource sharing department anyway. And then for the schools that are consortium members, it's very easy to just put it in a courier bag and send it on instead of having to mail it. And this wasn't specifically asked, but I'll just round this out by saying our visiting patron service is set up so that patrons can go in person to a different consortial library and browse the shelves. They can check out there, but they can only check out an item that is also available via Pick Up Anywhere, like regular PASCAL delivers circulation. So they couldn't go and check out something that's on reserve.
And before I proceed with the next question, I just want to remind the attendees that there is a post-survey session link posted in the chat if you take time to answer some of our questions, to be very helpful for the presenters and for NWILL. And I'll proceed with the next question. In terms of format limitations, were you mainly limited in the requesting electronic versions of items? If so, were those limitations lifted upon the arrival of COVID?
So our initial limitations were that we were limited to print material only. We didn't have any agreement for any type of digitization through our PASCAL Deliver service. Now, our institutions that are on OCLC platforms often borrow and lend digitized articles and chapters between themselves. So we wanted to move that functionality within the consortial shared library services platform. To make that an option for our members that do not have an OCLC platform. Now that we are doing digitization, we are right now limiting things to just articles and chapters from a print format while we investigate other options. We are going to move to requesting articles and chapters, in a digital format as the next phase. But the things that are in print collections, we're really only limited by what the institutions decide that they can provide. So it's based on staffing, technology, workflows, workloads. So for some institutions like Clemson, Rena's great, she opened everything up. They'll digitize anything that's in print essentially in their main collection that anybody wants. But some of our institutions don't have the staff to do that. So for them, it's limited to a specific collection within their library. I hope that answers that.
Thank you. How do you notify your patrons that their PASCAL deliveries request has been converted into an ILL request if it fails in PASCAL? The request automatically pushes to ILLiad as the only lender in ROTA.
So we do not notify them. They were receiving a cancellation notification, and we know that a lot of our patrons will just stop. So the system just works seamlessly now, and they don't get a notification at all. We found that ultimately, if we can get the item to the patron doesn't really care where it comes from.
Thank you. And the next question is, does the ALMA to ILL last resort transfer, including Iliad system transfer, non-English citation with diacritics, such as Asian or European, etc. languages? Thanks.
That is a good question. And I believe, I'm trying to think, we went live with that over the summer, and I feel like I have seen 1 or 2 requests come through. And again, you know, with textual resources and that text-based data, having those control numbers is so important. That is one of the things that has saved us so many times. So yeah, if something is transposed or doesn't quite come through from ALMA to Iliad in that transfer, having that OCLC number has really helped. But yeah, and the ones that I've seen, specifically when I'm thinking about something in like Cyrillic that came through, and yeah, I feel like it worked pretty well. We were able to fill it. I guess that's the ultimate answer. We were able to fill it. So
there is one more question.
Okay.
In the queue. Have you been able to parse the full cancel request letter based on the reason for cancellation, since it's shared between circulation and resource sharing?
Yes. Our programmer created a kind of like if-then code syntax for me. So I was able to go into the template for the letter and put that code in so that patrons receive a specific thing based on the reason for cancellation. Really, we've just done that when we convert requests from like from local to resource sharing, because we didn't want the patron to get a cancellation notice in between that. So we were able to say, if it cancels because we're converting it, then send this text to the patron in the letter. And I'm happy to share that. Our contact information is here. I'm happy to answer questions. I know that Diane and Rena are as well, if anybody wants to reach out to us. And I'm always happy to share whatever we have that we can share.
Thank you so much for this very insightful presentation, and what a great example of collaboration and what resource sharing is about. And I am going to take a quick look. There are no other questions that I can see, and just one more reminder for the attendees to fill up the survey, the post survey. Thank you so much.